This meeting was advertised pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-6 through 10:4-21. Notices were placed in the official publications for Monroe Township, i.e. South Jersey Times, Courier Post, and the Sentinel of Gloucester County. A copy of that notice is posted on the bulletin board at the municipal complex. Please note, audio and video of this meeting is being recorded in accordance with Ordinance O:56-2024. A copy of this recording will be posted on the Township's website for the public to view at their convenience. This time, I'd ask everyone to rise for the salute to the flag, led by Councilwoman Adams.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Council Vice President, Mrs. Adams?
Here.
Mr. Cope?
Here.
Mrs. Fox?
Here.
Council President, Mr. Heverly?
Here.
Mr. O'Reilly?
Here.
Mr. Rossi?
Here.
Mr. Valentine?
Here.
Mayor Wolf?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Kurz?
Here.
Solicitor, Mrs. Grace?
Here.
Business Administrator, Mr. Dehart?
Here.
Director of Code Enforcement, Mr. Sebastian?
Here.
Director of Community Affairs, Mrs. Parks is excused. Director of Parks and Recreation, Mr. Bruno is excused. Director of Public Safety, Mr. Rumpf is excused. Director of Public Works, Mr. Dilks is excused. Director of Real Estate, Ms. Bizatsky is excused. Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Boyer.
Here.
Deputy Police Chief McBride. Here. And myself, Deputy Municipal Clerk Jen Harbison, here.
Can I get a motion to approve the Ordinance Committee meeting September 11th, 2024, and Ordinance Committee meeting October 9th, 2024?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I actually had to abstain from September 11th.
Yeah.
Yes.
Abstain. Who abstained? Abstain.
The new council members.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah. Took my glasses off, sorry. Thanks.
Yep.
All right. Ordinances for review. At this time, we're going to be removing the second ordinance for review on the list, Chapter 37, Fire and Ambulance Services. We will address that at a later date, so that will be removed from the agenda this evening. First ordinance for review, Chapter 59, Municipal Utility Authorities. Ask for a motion to forward for the first reading.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none. Second, tax abatement 2675 Lakeside Drive, Block 9008, Lot 19. Have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye. Nay. How about just no?
All right. Matters for discussion. First one up is actually an agenda item that I just wanted to open up for discussion, and we're just titling it Open Space Protection. So, long story short, with just the residential, commercial, and industrial developments that are just somewhat sprawling in applications, what I don't see in our reviews is how any of that might impact our open space that we have actually deemed as open space. So just so everyone's aware, who may not know, there's kind of different levels of open space, right? There's public open space, such as bike trail or parks, but there's also private open space that's deemed in our open space inventory, but is not open to the public. So we actually have a lot of the basins that we own are deemed open space, but obviously nobody frequents the basins, they're fenced, they're locked. But what I don't think we have right now, and I think it's appropriate to have a discussion on, is with developments or any commercial, industrial, residential developments that are actually being proposed adjacent to what I would call our public open space. There's nothing in our protection. So like if they go before a zoning board or a planning board, there's not discussions around what the impacts would be to the adjacent open space. And I think that's pretty important at this point, that we kind of lock in and try to figure out how to protect that open space. So in my business, my real job, we have in the commercial development, we have I deal with the Historic Society a lot. So whenever we're proposing a project, and we deem that there's a New Jersey historic property, we have to fill out a whole report, present it to the state with view shed, photo simulations, things that will this proposed development have an impact on the historic property. Very similar in my eyes, right? So if I'm building a big commercial warehouse or even a residential neighborhood was once wooded and it runs along our scenic bike trail, for example, do we want a whole residential neighborhood being built right up to the bike trail? Because then we just lose the whole nature of that open space scenery view. So that's like an example, for example. I also want to make sure that we're protected in that they can't just like cross our open spaces. They got to be deemed protected. And again, I'm not so sure we have anything in our regulations. So the solicitor and I were just kind of touching base briefly before the meeting to just kind of, so I can set the tone for this discussion. So really, it's just opening it up.
This is just for public open space
This,
too,
well,
Pat?
I mean, I would say that we want to protect the public open spaces where the public frequents. I don't know if, I mean, I think that we could draft something that delineates the difference, because basins, like I said, basins are considered open space inventory by state Rossi standards, but they're not publicly frequented open spaces. But situations like someone's proposing a commercial industrial complex next to one of our parks, I think we'd all have a problem, right? But yet we don't have regulations to protect the open space in our bylaws now here in the town. So it would kind of get overlooked in that situation.
So we want to put language in like a buffer, like so many
I mean,
feet, or what's your thinking?
I hate the word buffer.
Okay. Fair enough.
And I say I hate the word buffer because that's like in the eye of the beholder, right? And a buffer means a million different things. When you go to a zoning meeting, they'll say, well, I'll give you a 100-foot buffer. Okay, so that you're gonna plant 5 trees in a 100-foot span, that's doing nothing for the buffer, right? So what do you define as the buffer? And that's why I said, I'm not a real big fan of the word buffer. The concept, absolutely, but articulating that is what's more important. Like, what
Almost
does
like
that mean?
leave it 100 foot of virgin land, like how if it's wooded, you leave 100 feet of that, how it,
I mean, that would be,
something like that, is that what you're thinking?
I mean, I've seen it, where they're land clearing,
Right.
and then what they're doing is, they're saying they have a buffer, and what you're getting is 6 or 7 arborvitae's
Yeah.
planted across. That's not a buffer. In 10 years, the trees might grow, but you're still gonna see everything that you typically would not see. Right? Any questions? Any input? Does everyone support moving forward with getting something?
Yeah, I think we should look at it.
So if the concept's essentially holistically approved by council, we'll take a look, we'll see what other ordinances have outlined or what we can add to our current ordinance to provide these, not so-called buffers, but areas of, areas of additional land that can be left in between, and what other reviews or assessments we can give to council prior to proceeding with zoning or
And
planning.
we can talk further. I mean, one of the other items that I think that is appropriate to put in is photos. I mean, I don't know if everyone's familiar with photo simulations, but it's pictures taken, and then they'll overlay the proposed layout and how it'll, and like you'll take pictures from north, east, south, west, and they'll actually overlay the proposed development. An engineering firm, I think that would be important to say, okay, well, what is this actually gonna look like in place before and after, that kind of stuff. That's something.
It's a great idea.
Essentially detailed proposal to council
Yeah.
prior to, moving forward with the next steps.
Okay.
We should also probably include the township planner with
Absolutely.
that, with the master plan.
And of course, open space.
That would be, I mean, without a doubt.
You don't interfere with the land use law, so.
Okay, that's all I have. Next up is stormwater control ordinance. Is that?
I guess that's me, sure. We received a resolution dated December 5th, 2024, from the Gloucester County Planning Board, just essentially ratifying the stormwater control ordinance that we had amended back in May 2022, 2024, that everything was fine with the ordinance and that it was in compliance with all appropriate regulations and recommendations. So that's just an update to council and the ordinance committee.
Okay. Next up, I think this was you, Jim, Chapter 28019, Animal Control.
Yes, so we were contacted by Pet Savers. Everybody's aware that Pet Savers is who partnered with us for our TNVR ordinance 2 years ago. They are not able to service us anymore. They did put us in touch with Rescue Kitty, which is another cat TNVR group. They are working with us on modifying the ordinance, making it a little bit better. We met last week with Gloucester County Animal Control to make sure that whatever the changes that we're looking at work well with them, since they are our animal control officers. I believe I will have actually the plan was to have it ready for tonight, but we had prior meeting was canceled due to some people being sick. So we'll have that done at least, if not for the next council meeting, definitely for the next ordinance meeting. Just some minor modifications. They've seen some other ordinances have been a little more successful, a little less burden on our Board of Health. So hopefully we can come up with a better plan and just keep working forward with this. I think overall it's been a success.
Next up, new business. Anyone have any new business to discuss this evening? Seeing none. Unfinished business? Seeing none. Public portion, I'll ask for a motion to open the public portion.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Is there anyone in the public wishing to address the ordinance committee this evening? Of course you are.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Len Fritz, Monroe Township Open Space Advisory Committee Chairperson. Regarding the first ordinance that was mentioned, a lot of other towns have what they call a scenic corridor. They put them along streams, any other protected type areas, and it could also be done most likely with any kind of open space facilities as well. I'm sure our attorney and or engineer could find those ordinances from other towns.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But I think a lot of it, instead, like you said, the buffer, that's a misnomer in a lot of ways. The corridor has a better weight to it, I think, as far as when you read it in the ordinances as a requirement for developers.
Now, would that take, Len, would that take into account, when we say corridor, I mean, I'm thinking bike trail, but would that also
Right.
apply to, say, like Mary Duffy?
Yes,
Owens, like,
because you
to
can
that?
call it a scenic corridor to maintain the integrity of the park.
Okay,
You know, or you can take, instead of using buffer, you could use it scenic area, period, not to say corridor or anything, just say, you know, conservation area or something to that effect. There's lots of ways, several towns have had different ways of doing it, wording it. But I know it's been done before, I've seen it, dealt with it myself, so.
okay,
All right,
all right,
all.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Len.
Anyone else this evening? Seeing none, motion to close public portion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none. Can I get a motion for adjournment?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Meeting's adjourned. It's all of it, right? It's like